The cardboard box fell from the top shelf with a loud thud. Dust flew everywhere. My granddaughter, Emma, coughed and waved her hand in front of her face. "Grandma, what's in here?" I was 63 years old, cleaning out my old garage on a Saturday afternoon. I didn't expect to find that box. I didn't want to find it. Emma pulled out a thick photo album, the kind with the sticky pages and plastic covers. She opened it carefully. Her eyes went wide. "Grandma, is this you?" I looked over her shoulder. There I was, 7 years old, pigtails, gap-toothed smile, standing between my 2 older brothers. Behind us, my parents. My father's hand on my shoulder, my mother smiling at the camera. We looked happy. We looked like a family. Emma flipped through the pages. Birthday parties, Christmas mornings, summer vacations, page after page of a childhood that looked perfect from the outside. "Who are these people?" she asked, pointing at my brothers. My chest tightened. I felt that old, familiar knot in my stomach. "Those are your great-uncles," I said quietly. She looked up at me with those innocent 12-year-old eyes. "I didn't know I had great-uncles. Where are they now? Do they live far away? Can we visit them?" I knew exactly where they were. One lived 45 minutes north, one lived 2 hours east. Close enough to visit, close enough to call, close enough to care. But I hadn't spoken to either of them in 5 years. "It's complicated, sweetheart," I said, my voice cracking just a little. Emma kept asking questions, but I couldn't answer them. Not then, not there. I told her I wasn't feeling well. I drove her home to her mother's house. I hugged her a little tighter than usual before she got out of the car. That night, I sat alone in my living room. The photo album was on my coffee table. I didn't open it. I just stared at it. You might believe siblings are forever, that blood ties can't be broken, that family always finds a way back to each other. But what if I told you that sometimes walking away is the kindest thing you can do for yourself? I'm 63 years old. 5 years ago, I made the hardest decision of my life. I cut off my 2 older brothers completely. No phone calls, no visits, no birthday cards. And I have no regrets. That might sound cold to you, heartless, unforgivable. But before you judge me, let me ask you something else. Have you ever felt more pain from family than from strangers? Have you ever been betrayed by the people who were supposed to protect you? Have you ever looked at a childhood photo and wondered how the smiling faces turned into people you don't recognize anymore? If you have, then you already understand. This isn't a story about one fight or one bad day. This is a story about a lifetime of being invisible, about asking for help when I was drowning and being pushed under instead. This is about the day I learned that blood doesn't make you family. Loyalty does. Respect does. Love does. And when those things are gone, all you're left with is DNA. And DNA isn't enough. So let me take you back, not to the moment I walked away, but to the moments that led me there. Because the truth is, I didn't cut them off 5 years ago. They cut me off a long time before that. I just finally stopped pretending. People often ask me when it started. When did my brothers become strangers? I used to think it began when Mom died, but sitting here now, I can see it started long before that. I was 11 when Dad passed away. I remember standing at his funeral, my small hand clutching Mom's skirt. My brothers, James, 17, and Robert, 15, stood apart from us. They didn't cry. They were too busy whispering about Dad's workshop tools. That should have been my first warning. Mom inherited everything: the house, the savings, Dad's pension. She thought it would keep us together. Instead, it became the thread that slowly unraveled our family. It started with small things. James needed money for college, $3,000. "Just a loan, Mom," he said. Robert wanted to start a business, $11,000. "The property by the creek, Mom. Nobody uses it anyway." I watched Mom sign papers again and again. Each time her hands shook a little more. Meanwhile, I stayed. Through high school, through college, local college, because someone needed to help Mom with groceries, doctor visits, daily life. My brothers had moved away by then, James to the city, Robert to the coast. Both married, both busy, both absent. The phone calls grew shorter. "Can't talk long, Mom. Kids are waiting." "Sorry, busy week at work. Maybe next holiday." Mom kept their photos on the mantel. Every morning she'd dust them, touch their faces through the glass. "They're just busy," she'd say. "They have their own families now." But I saw how her eyes dimmed each time they canceled a visit, how she'd set the table for 4 at Christmas, then quietly remove 2 plates when they didn't show up. When Mom got sick, I called them both. "James, I've got meetings all week." "Robert, the kids have school. You understand." I became her nurse, her cook, her companion. For 3 years, I watched her fade. For 3 years, I left messages on their answering machines. For 3 years, they were too busy. Then Mom died. They arrived for the funeral wearing new suits. James checked his watch during the service. Robert asked about the will before we'd even lowered her casket. "The house should sell quickly in this market," Robert said, standing in Mom's kitchen. Her coffee cup still sat unwashed by the sink, her crossword puzzle half finished on the table. "We'll need to clear it out soon," James added, already opening cabinets. "My wife might want some of these dishes." I stood there, in the kitchen where Mom had taught me to bake cookies, where she'd bandaged my scraped knees, where she'd waited by the phone every holiday, hoping they'd call. That's when I realized my brothers hadn't become strangers overnight. They'd been becoming strangers my entire life. I just didn't want to see it. The house sold, the money split 3 ways. Equal shares, they insisted, as if showing up at the end entitled them to the same as someone who'd been there all along. I moved to a small apartment across town. Neither brother asked where, neither brother cared. That's the thing about sibling estrangement. It's not always about big fights or dramatic betrayals. Sometimes it's about 1,000 tiny moments of choosing not to care, 1,000 opportunities to show up, turned down, 1,000 chances to be family, ignored. Until one day you look at these people who share your blood and you realize they're just strangers who happen to look like you in old photographs. I spent years waiting for my brothers at every important milestone of my life. Graduations, job promotions, my wedding. Each time I'd leave a chair empty, hoping they'd show up. They never did. It wasn't that we were completely out of touch. We knew the basics: who lived where, who worked what job, who had how many kids. But knowing about someone's life isn't the same as being part of it. I kept trying, though. Every Christmas, every Easter, I'd make those calls. "Hey, just wanted to wish you..." The conversations always ended the same way. "Sorry, can't talk long. I'll call you back when I'm free." That callback never came. Eventually, my pride kicked in. I stopped calling. The silence stretched from months to years. 18 years passed like this, with nothing but holiday cards and occasional Facebook likes between us. Life has a way of testing you when you're already down. After my husband's sudden death, my business was failing. Investors were demanding their money back. Every morning I'd wake up to threatening emails and missed calls. I kept it quiet, tried to handle it myself. Pride, maybe, or shame. Then came my 63rd birthday. My sister-in-law insisted on throwing a party. "Family should celebrate together," she said. I didn't want to go, but I went. Watched them all laughing, sharing stories, passing around expensive gifts. My older brother, James, sat across from me, showing off his new Rolex. The same brother who'd borrowed $11,000 from our father years ago, selling that piece of land that had been in our family for generations. After dessert, I pulled him aside. My hands were shaking. "James, I need to talk to you about something important." He smiled, still admiring his watch. "Sure, what's up?" I told him everything. The business troubles, the threats of legal action, the sleepless nights. I reminded him about Dad's land, how he'd helped him back then. "I just need enough to keep the investors at bay for a few months," I said. "I'll pay you back, with interest." His smile disappeared. He looked at me like I was a stranger begging on the street. That was different. Dad's land was my inheritance anyway. And honestly, you should have managed your business better. I can't risk my money on your mistakes. Your mistakes. Those words hit me like a physical blow. All those years I'd made excuses for him. All those times I'd defended him to Mom. All those moments I'd convinced myself that blood meant something. He walked away, rejoined the party. I watched him laugh with his wife, show off his watch again, act like he hadn't just turned his back on his own brother. That's when I knew. Some bridges don't just burn, they crumble so completely that trying to rebuild them would only hurt you more. It wasn't about the money. It never really is. It was about seeing, finally and clearly, that the brother I thought I had never really existed. I left the party early. Nobody noticed. Or if they did, nobody cared enough to ask why. That was the last family gathering I ever attended. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is accept that not all family ties are meant to last forever. After that birthday party, my world collapsed completely. The legal notices kept coming. My small business, which I'd built while raising 3 young children alone after Tom's death, was drowning in debt. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. My hands shook every time the phone rang. The worst part? I had nowhere to turn. My brothers, who lived in luxury, had turned their backs on me. The same brothers who grew up sharing my childhood, who once promised Dad they'd always look after their little sister. Then Sarah from my office noticed something was wrong. She'd see me crying in the break room, trying to hide my tears behind coffee cups and fake smiles. "Margaret," she said one day, "what's really going on?" I broke down and told her everything about the investors who'd tricked me with hidden clauses in contracts, about my brother's rejection, about feeling trapped and alone. You know what she did? This woman who had no obligation to help me, who shared no DNA with me, took 3 days of vacation time to help me sort through my paperwork. She connected me with her brother-in-law, a financial advisor who specialized in small business recovery. "But I can't pay you," I said, ashamed. "Family doesn't charge family," she replied. Family. That word hit differently now. For 2 months, Sarah brought me lunch every day. Her brother-in-law worked evenings and weekends to restructure my debt. They never asked for anything in return, never made me feel like a burden, never threw my mistakes in my face. Meanwhile, my own brothers blocked my number when the local paper ran a small article about my business troubles. They were afraid I'd ask for help again, afraid I'd embarrass them. That's when I learned something profound. Family isn't about who shares your past. It's about who shows up for your present. Sarah and her family saved my business. More importantly, they saved my spirit. They showed me that while blood relations might abandon you, true family can come from anywhere. I still had to fight my battles, still had to work twice as hard to rebuild what I'd lost. Some nights, I'd sit alone in my small apartment, looking at photos of my children sleeping, wondering how I'd make it through. But I wasn't really alone anymore, not in the ways that mattered. My brothers, they're doing well, I hear. Still wearing expensive watches, still living their comfortable lives, still pretending they don't have a sister. And that's okay, because now I understand. Sometimes the family you're born into isn't the family you're meant to keep. Sometimes life's greatest betrayals lead you to your truest connections. To anyone watching this who feels alone, abandoned by those who should love you most, look around. Your real family might not be who you think. They might be waiting in break rooms with coffee cups, ready to help without being asked, ready to show you what family really means. You've probably heard it 1,000 times. Blood is thicker than water. People say it like it's some kind of universal truth, usually when they're trying to guilt you into forgiving family members who hurt you. But here's something interesting I learned recently. That's not even the full saying. The complete phrase is, "The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb." Think about that for a moment. It actually means the exact opposite of how we use it today. It means the bonds we choose, our covenants, our promises, our chosen relationships are stronger than the accidents of birth. I wish I'd known this 30 years ago. After my brothers abandoned me during my darkest times, something beautiful happened. My neighbor Martha started bringing me dinner every Wednesday. "Too much food for just me," she'd say, though we both knew she cooked those meals specially. Then there was Bill from my church group, who'd drive me to doctor's appointments without me ever having to ask. And Sarah from work, who became more of a sister to me than anyone who shared my DNA. These people chose to be in my life. They chose to care. They chose to show up. No one forced them, no one guilted them, no one reminded them about blood ties or family obligations. They just loved. I remember one Christmas feeling sorry for myself about spending the holiday alone. Martha knocked on my door with a small tree and a pie. "Family doesn't have to share your last name," she said. She was right. Now, at 74, my family looks different than I imagined it would. Sunday dinners with Martha and her grandson, weekly calls with Sarah, monthly book club with Bill and his wife. None of them share my blood. All of them share my heart. To those watching who feel trapped by toxic family ties, remember this. You have permission to build your own family, to choose your own people, to create bonds stronger than blood. Because sometimes the family we choose loves us better than the family we're born into. And that's not just okay, it's beautiful. The first Christmas after cutting ties with my brothers was the hardest. I sat in my living room, staring at my phone, fighting the urge to call them. Old habits die hard, even when they're harmful ones. The silence felt deafening at first. No more drama-filled family group chats, no more obligatory holiday gatherings, no more pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. I'd lie awake some nights, wondering if I'd made a mistake. Society tells us that family is forever, that cutting ties is selfish. Those voices can be loud in the quiet moments. But then something strange happened. I started sleeping better. The knot in my stomach when my phone rang, gone. The anxiety before holidays disappeared. It was like putting down a heavy backpack I'd carried so long I'd forgotten it was there. I learned to create new traditions. Sunday brunches with my neighbor Martha became sacred time. We'd sit on her porch, drinking coffee, talking about everything and nothing. No judgment, no expectations, just peace. I started a small garden, planted tomatoes, herbs, flowers. Watching things grow helped me understand sometimes you have to prune away the dead branches for new growth to flourish. To those considering this path, here's what I've learned. Trust your gut. If you're thinking about cutting ties, there's usually a good reason. Build your support system first. Find your Marthas and Sarahs. Set clear boundaries. No maybe next year or we'll see. Give yourself permission to grieve what you hoped family would be. The hardest truth? Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself and others is to walk away. I'm 74 now. My garden is blooming. My friendships are deep. My peace is real. And that silence that once felt deafening, it now sounds like freedom. As I sit here in my garden at 74, watching butterflies dance among my roses, I want to tell you something important. You're not a bad person for choosing yourself. I spent decades believing I had to earn my brother's love, that if I just tried harder, gave more, forgave more, they'd finally see me. Maybe you're doing the same dance right now. Let me save you some time. You can't love people into loving you back. I know you're afraid of being alone, afraid of what others will say, afraid of making the wrong choice. I felt all of that too. But here's what I've learned. The judgment of others is nothing compared to the judgment we inflict on ourselves when we stay in toxic relationships. But they're family, you might be thinking. What if I regret it? What will people think? Listen closely. Your peace matters more than other people's opinions. Your mental health matters more than family obligations. Your happiness matters more than keeping up appearances. To those sitting at home right now, tears in your eyes, recognizing your own story and mine, you're not alone. There are thousands of us who've chosen peace over toxic family ties, who've decided that love shouldn't hurt. If you're struggling with similar decisions, I invite you to share your story below. Let's build a community of understanding and support. Sometimes knowing we're not alone makes all the difference. And remember, family isn't about who you're born to, it's about who brings light to your life. If this message resonated with you, please like and subscribe. I'll be sharing more stories about finding peace, setting boundaries, and building meaningful relationships in your senior years. Because at the end of the day, it's never too late to choose yourself, never too late to find peace, never too late to rewrite your story. You deserve that peace. Yes, you, especially you.